Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting Monday, December 6th, 2021. I hereby declare this meeting of the Howell Township Zoning Board to be open. Adequate notice having been given pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meeting Act in the following manner. First, on December 10th, 2020, a copy of said notice was mailed to the Asbury Park Press and the Tri-Town News. Second, on December 29th, 2020, a copy of said notice was hand-delivered to the clerk of the Township of Howell. Third, on December 29th, 2020, said notice was posted in the office of the zoning board and on the bulletin board in the Howell Township Municipal Building, 4567 Route 9, Howell Township, New Jersey. Please take note that this meeting is being videotaped for possible future broadcast on Howell Township TV 77. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues of what the board may legally consider in reaching their decision, and the decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For any members of the public wishing to ask questions or comments on an application, you will need to use the raise your hand feature when the chairman opens the hearing up for members of the public. Once you are brought into the meeting, you will need to have both audio and video. You will be sworn in and required to give your name and address. You can use *9 to raise and lower your hand, *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay, Eileen, I'm gonna lose everybody for a second here. I've got to switch over to the roll call, please.
Mr. Cantor?
Here.
Mr. Hughes has been excused. Mr. Mertens?
Here.
Mr. Moretti?
Here.
Mr. Orozco? I have not heard from. Mr. Saya?
Here.
Mr. Stanton? I have not heard from him. Mr. Gonzalez has been excused. And Chairman Nansen.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of
Of the United States
States
of America,
and to the
and to the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Tropoli, you mind swearing in the professionals, please?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Professionals, please raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you'll give this evening be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Right, tonight we have Ms. Bell, Mr. Conliff, and Mr. Aguiar all sworn for the evening. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Vouchers or
I have-
approval of minutes. Approval of minutes.
I have no minutes this evening.
Vouchers.
I have no vouchers this evening.
Correspondence.
I do have correspondence.
Okay.
The first item is, I received an email late this afternoon from Neil Yoskin, who is the attorney for, Vessi 24 LLC, case number 20-104F, which is on tonight's agenda. He apologizes for being so last minute, but he had a family emergency that prevented him from attending tonight. He couldn't get anyone else to substitute, so he asked that we please reschedule him. I told him we did not have dates, so the best I could do right now is carry him to next week for scheduling purposes only, and hopefully by then we'll have dates and we can carry him again.
Okay.
So he needs to be carried to December 13th with no further notice for scheduling purposes only.
Okay. Case, hey, I've got it. Okay. This is case number BA 20-104F.
Yes,
Versailles 24 LLC will be carried till December 13th with no further notice for scheduling purposes only.
thank you.
I got an expiration date. I need an expiration date.
Sorry, the expiration date on that is December 16th, so he's good, and then we'll get a date from him for that.
Okay. Okay.
The other item, I think we were going to discuss the meeting dates tonight.
Yes.
So we switched out September 26th to the September 19th because of Rosh Hashanah. We switched October 10th, which is Columbus Day, to October 3rd. And December, we had December 12th or 26th, and I think the board decided the 12th and the 19th. If that's correct, those were the only dates that were in conflict.
Yeah. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board on that? I-
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I recommend a recommendation. We go with the following year's schedule as amended by Eileen.
Okay,
Was that September 19th, Eileen?
December.
Yes, September 19th and December 19th.
Okay. Instead of the 26th and the 26th, okay.
Correct.
That's okay, Mike Moretti.
okay.
Do we want a second and a vote or anything?
Yeah, let's go ahead and set them. I'm gonna have to check out to get back on, so I'm here right now because I have to. This is a big mess. Okay, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the meeting set up by Eileen with the two changes to September 19th and to December 19th.
And October 3rd for October 10th.
And for October 3rd for October 10th, sorry.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. We have,
Wait.
do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
Mr. Mertens,
Yes.
Mr. Moretti,
Yes,
Mr. Saya,
Yes.
and Chairman Nansen.
Yes.
Motion carries. That takes care of that. The other thing, we were discussing going live in January,
No,
but with the new variant and everything going on, we think we're going to push it off till the spring.
okay,
So I don't know if the board wants to discuss it or if the board's just okay leaving it the way it is.
we're just okay leaving it the way it is.
Okay. We are good to go then. That's all I have.
Okay, resolutions, case number BA 1809A, Associates Business Park LLC, resolution granting use variance. Eligible voters, Cantor, Hughes, Mertens, Moretti, Roscoe, Saya, Nansen. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move that we approve this resolution.
Okay, motion by Mr. Cantor,
second that.
seconded by Mr. Moretti. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Oh, no, sorry. It's got to be
Roll call.
roll call. Sorry.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
Mr. Mertens,
Yes.
Mr. Moretti,
yes,
Mr. Saya,
Yes.
Chairman Nansen.
Yes.
Motion carries, resolutions memorialized. Thank you.
Okay. I'm gonna have to read the application before the board, and then I'm gonna have to switch back into the Zoom meeting. So you're gonna have to bear with me because it's the only way I can do it. Okay, application before the board, case number BA 2120, Donald DeCisi. Application bulk variance for construction of single-family dwelling with septic system. Application Donald DeCisi as owner and seeking a bulk variance approval for the construction of a new two-story, 5-bedroom, single-family dwelling with septic field located north side of the principal structure in the Locust Avenue front yard of the lot with insufficient frontage on Locust Avenue. The application is also proposed the construction of a covered front yard, front with setback with stairs. This is so hard reading this.
Do you want me to read it for you?
Yeah, if you want to read that, my computer is messed. messed
Sure.
up, so.
I'll just start from where you left off. The application is also proposed, or the applicant is also proposing the construction of a covered front side porch with stairs, rear stairs, and an attached 3-car garage with all proposed development taking place in the stem portion of the flag lot on premises known as Block 28, Lot 35, 140 Locust Avenue. This application was partially heard on September 27, 2021, when it was carried to November 8th, 2021, with no further notice. On November 8th, this application was carried to December 6, 2021, with no further notice. Expiration date is January 14, 2021. Eligible voters are Mertens, Moretti, Saya, and Nansen, and Mr. Cantor has certified that he has watched the video and is eligible now to vote.
I have.
Okay, guys, I got to try to. I got
And if you
to
give,
log out and go back in.
you're fine, we can see you.
I know you can see me.
Oh.
I can't. It's not letting me in.
Wendell, go ahead, do it. Let's do it now.
I'm doing, I'm,
Could remove them.
You want me to move you out and come back in?
yeah, if you can.
While we're waiting for the chairman, Mr. DeCase, do we have to bring anyone else in for you?
No.
No one else is testifying. Okay, thank you.
Eileen, I did reach out to Jose. He told me he's driving. So hopefully he'll be joining us.
Okay, I'll keep a watch for him. Thank you.
Okay.
Windows on.
Okay. Trying to do too many things at once.
Yeah, you're gonna have to read from now.
That's fine. I don't mind.
It just, I can't switch back and forth.
Okay. We have Mr. DeCase in the hearing.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. DeCase, if you would raise your right hand, I'll re-swear you from the earlier meeting. You swear the testimony you'll give this evening will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Do.
And state your name, please, for the record.
Donald DeCase.
Thank you. Charlie, do you think it might be better if you were to take the lead on this,
Yeah.
based on your most recent report?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm gonna just share my screen so I can summarize the changes that the applicant made. Let me see if I can move this. You guys can see my screen?
Yes,
Yeah, so I'm showing the applicant's original submission, which has since been revised, but basically what the applicant was proposing originally was a mounted septic system in the front yard, constructing a new dwelling, 2-story, where on a vacant lot, with the driveway along the easterly portion of the property, with a 3-bay garage. The variance that previously were being sought was 24-foot front yard setback from an unnamed right-of-way along the west side of the property, where 40 foot's required in the zone. And then they needed a technical variance for the existing non-conforming lot width. The ARE 3, I believe, requires a 200-foot front yard setback lot width, where 133.58 feet exists. What the applicant has done, he's enlisted the services as an engineer, Geller Civ. They've flipped the structure, so mirrored it. So now the garage is on the west side of the property. The driveway comes down the westerly portion of the property. And now they have a conforming front yard setback from this 30-foot right-of-way. They also have a conforming side yard setback, 24 feet where 24 is required. And the only existing variance is really an existing nonconformity. It's the lot width. Like I said, 200 foot required where 133.58 feet exist. And I just want to note for the board, this is ARE 3 zone. Our ordinance section 188-35A has a existing platted lots, which were in existence prior to the adoption of that ordinance section, give a 20% credit on the front and side and rear yard setbacks, as well as building coverage. So in this instance, obviously it's an existing non-conforming lot with a lot width. These setbacks that we're talking about, they have a 20% credit. So 30-foot side yard is typically required with a 20% credit. You know, the requirement is 24 in the zone. They're at 24.16. Let me just put the hand tool here so it's a little bit more clear. This 30-foot private right-of-way, like I said, 50 foot's technically required for front yards. With that 20% credit, they're at 40 foot and they're matching it here. My big issue and concern with the prior iteration of the plan was, generally speaking, the lot drains from north to south. So north would be the bottom hand of the page here. And they were pretty much just raising the lot, 2.5, 3 feet and just pushing the water on all the neighboring properties. As I mentioned, they enlisted the services of an engineer, Geller Civ. They've come back with a revised plan. You can see along the westerly side property line, they've introduced some swell grading. On the easterly side property, similarly, generally speaking, the lot is proposed to grade towards Locust Avenue, and they've created some swell grading to make sure that water then goes to the back. To achieve that, they have proposed a 2-foot high retaining wall along the east side of the property line, which is conforming from a setback standard. 5 feet is required in our ordinance. This is at 12 feet. I did reach out to Mr. DeCassa's engineer, Rob Civ from Geller Civ, and he indicated if the board did desire, the septic system could be shifted another 5 to 8 feet to possibly eliminate this retaining wall and get the grading just naturally sloped. I don't know that has any benefit on the application. I think from an aesthetic perspective, having that retaining wall will certainly lessen the aesthetic view of this being a mounted septic system in the front yard. I think this, as far as from a grading perspective, might be the better alternative than just to have some steep 3-to-1 and then it's apparent that this is a mounted septic system. In addition, my letter, I asked about dry wells. They're proposing a recharge system with the dry well at the southwest corner of the development. I just asked that any overflows be directed with like a Y, a standard sanitary Y, just to overflow to the swale area so it's not going onto a neighboring property. So really, the only variance is the existing non-conforming lot width. Just to go through my letter, and Mr. DeCassi can indicate if I'm saying anything that's out of turn. So basically, the only change with the dwelling is you flipped it, right? You just mirrored it. So now,
Here's the footprint.
okay, and then it's still 5 bedrooms. The basement's unfinished. The only thing you're going to have down there is like a small
The convenience.
like bathrooms, convenience bathroom, right? Convenience sink. And then as far as the study that's on the second floor, the office/study, that's not going to be a bedroom at any point in the future.
No.
So, Mr. Chair, I would just ask that be placed on the record as a condition because it has impacts to the septic system, as in the Monmouth County Board of Health review letter. They indicated if that study were changed to a bathroom, the septic system would have to increase by 50%. So if that were to change, the applicant would have to come back to the board to amend the approval. Stop through some of the. So you got 3 garages in the dwelling. Two of them look like they're for parking, and then the third, are you doing any like auto repair or personal kind of work in there, Mr. DeCat?
No, it's for lack of a better term, it's just a his and hers garage. You could have one side, she could have the other. You're not interfering with each other. You can work, I
Okay,
can
so
work.
you're not going to put in a lift and do any like commercial repairs out of the residential property or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Couple clarifying items. So it looks like when you scale from the architectural plans that the building is compliant. I just asked that they actually put the calculation on the architectural plan for the board's consideration, just to make sure the plan itself, the plot plan indicates a height of 28.9 feet. Just add that the calculation on the architectural plan be added. What else do we have here? As well as on the architectural plan, just indicate the finished grade with the retaining wall. I think you're at like 85 in the front, and then on that east side, I think you're at 83.5. So just ask that be clarified on the architectural plan. As far as the driveway itself, is that going to be paved the entirety, Mr. DeCat?
No, I would prefer stone just for drainage and overall purposes. I'll pave the apron, just coming in off the street, the first 20 feet off the street, but the rest of it I would leave as a stone driveway. Just fits better with the zoning in the area, where it being a farm area. And I just believe that a dirt gravel road is more of a farm road than blacktop.
So I'll leave that up to the board, Mr. Chair. So our ordinance requires for residential driveways, anything over 150 feet, the first 150 feet have to be paved. So, they would need a technical relief of that. And if the board is amenable to that, I think we just need to get some kind of idea of how far into the site that apron's going to be paved. If it's just 5 feet, or you're looking to pave the first like 20 feet, or
First 20 feet, usually like about a car length. It prevents washout during from the apron and stuff.
Okay.
Makes it an easier transition in and out.
Have them restart my device. How do I get rid of that?
So what I will say is, if the board is going to look favorably on granting that relief, I just ask that you got to give us like a driveway section for gravel that's sufficient from the fire perspective. So it's got to be, it can't just be a 2-inch top dress or something like that. It's got to be actual,
No,
4 or 5,
about
6 inches of gravel, something suitable, so you can get a truck in there if he needs to, God forbid.
I think it's set to go 12 inches of crushed concrete and then 4 inches of stone.
Okay. All right.
I don't think I can. Can I go to settings or something?
No.
Eileen, you're unmuted.
You guys have to give me a minute because my computer's going to update at 7:44. So I need to do something, or I'm going to lose you all. So give me 1 minute.
Okay,
Do you want me to stop?
No, we have a couple of minutes, but it may interrupt us and everybody may have to log back on. Go ahead.
All right. So with the right-of-way dedication, I'd ask that the applicant provide right-of-way dedication along Locust Avenue. I think the deeded property line goes to the center of the road. We just want to get the 33-foot half width. Do you have an issue with that, Mr. DeCass?
No.
As far as the 30-foot wide private right-of-way, we typically try to get right-of-way dedication when we can. In this instance, Mr. Chair, I don't think that we need to take that. It's unclear on the tax map whether it's a public right-of-way or a private access easement. Really, if you were driving down Locust Avenue, this would just look like a existing residential driveway. Taking another 15 foot of right-of-way dedication off this property to make the width even more non-conforming, I don't think that's a good planning alternative. So I would take no issue with not taking the right-of-way there. What else do we have here? We talked about.
Charlie, not to cut you off, that right away, I have paperwork from the 70s that assigns that property privately to the lot in the back, to, I believe it's lot 36.
So there's
that
this
500 lot.
landlocked parcel back here.
So in the paperwork from 1971 from the previous owner, they show all the subdivision of those 3 lots, and it assigns the front lot is exemption 2. The right-of-way is exemption 3, and that back lot, lot 36, is exemption 1, and it assigns exemption 3 to exemption 1. So it assigns the right-of-way to lot 36.
So, and Mr. Chair, I'll just point out to the board, like Mr. Bacast said, this is a landlocked parcel, so it wouldn't be unreasonable that this was a dedication for private right-of-way for that. And, if the town or if the board is considered about this road ever being improved, the parcel on the back of this is the applicant's property. They're in the ARE3 zone, which requires 3 acres. And I think they're at just over 4 acres with the existing lot. So you wouldn't be able to just subdivide this without having to come back to the board. So if that ever needed to get revisited at a future date, you know, we could do it if this ever came back, but I don't foresee that happen in the future. What else do we have here? We talked about the driveways that provided that. Monmouth County Board of Health, I summarized their comments. I just say any tree removal, obviously they got to get a township tree removal permit. With the lot grading, if there's a significant import, the applicant's going to have to get a topsoil import-export permit. Any utilities other than water sewer that go to Locust Avenue, they're going to have to get any required township road opening permits. And really the last piece, as far as plat details, obviously if the board takes no issue with the gravel driveway, obviously the first 20 feet being paved asphalt, just want to see a construction detail for on the plan so that the town knows what's getting installed. But other than that, Mr. Chair, that's all I have on this application. I think they've heard the board's concerns and have arised and come back with a better alternative.
Okay, any question from the board?
No.
Mr. Saya?
The chair,
Yes, sir.
you know, I'm pleased that, you know, Mr. DeCass had made the improvements based on our first meeting. And as long as Charlie and the planner doesn't see any negative aspect to this particular application, I'm good.
I would just say, kind of just to reiterate, Charlie's testimony, this is a conforming use in the zone district. They've worked, to alleviate every variance they can with the exception of the lot frontage, which is an existing condition. So I take no issue with this application.
Okay, any questions of the board or Mr. Cantor?
No, sir, I'm good.
Mr. Mertens?
I'm good too.
Mr. Moretti?
I'm good.
And okay,
Excuse me, before you open it to public, can I ask everybody, even the members of the public that are listening in, to please log off? Because my computer's going to shut down. I'm going to log into a different one and we're going to have to start over. I'm sorry, but I can't stop this.
okay,
Okay,
All right, sorry.
no problem, Eileen.
Thank you.
okay.
I think everybody's back, but I'm not sure. Mr. DeCase, if you can unmute and put your video back on.
Yes.
Thank you.
We
Sorry
good?
about that, everybody.
Are we good to go down?
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion to open the public for questions and comments?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Mertens,
Second it.
seconded by Mr. Moretti. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Eileen, at this time, we'll and ask for questions and comments. Yeah,
Okay, the chairman has opened the hearing up for members of the public. If anyone is wishing to ask questions or comment on this application, please use the raise your hand feature. We'll bring you into the meeting one at a time. You will need your name and address. You'll be sworn in. And if you're calling in, you can use *9 to mute or unmute yourself, to raise your hand, and *6 to mute or unmute yourself. Okay, we have Charles Okerson coming into the meeting.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, can you please unmute and show your video? Who's on with Charles Okerson?
Yeah. Is it unmuted?
You're unmuted, but your video is not on.
Now you're muted.
You may have to sign off and sign back in. And if you're calling in, you use *6 to mute or unmute yourself, *9 to start your video, I think. You're muted, Mr. Okerson.
Lost him.
We'll give him a minute to call back in.
Great.
Is he back on? All right, we're going to bring Mr. Okerson back in. Mr. Okerson, are you trying to get back in? While we wait for Mr. Okerson, are there any other members of the public wishing to ask questions or comment on this application? If so, please use the raise your hand feature. We have no one else raising their hand. And Mr. Okerson logged back off again, so I don't know if he's coming back in or not.
He could also dial in, correct?
Yes.
Telephonically. That number would be, if he's listening?
Well, there's various numbers to call in, but one of them is 1-929-205-6099. You'll also have to enter webinar ID of 944-5362-1088 and a passcode of 3333. and then use *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself.
Ron? What do we do with this?
I would give it a few more minutes, Mr. Chairman. You know, the numbers on the record, and if they can hear, they will call in. But I wouldn't want to close the public knowing that there might be someone trying to come in. So I would recommend just a few more minutes.
Okay.
Five 362-1088. And then 4 3s.
What I was wondering was, Mr. Okerson, is this the right application that he was for?
I don't know. Hold on 1 minute. There's no one that was noticed with the name Okerson, so it may not be for this application. He may have been for Associate Business Park, which is near Okerson Road,
Yeah,
but that was just for a resolution. Okay, thank you. We have someone calling in, so let's see who that is.
Eileen, their hand is raised and they're muted. So whoever's calling in needs to *6 to unmute. Is that correct?
Yes, *6 to unmute.
Hello.
Hello, can we have your name,
Yeah, I'm
please?
gonna put my grandma on the phone. She's the one that wants to talk. Hang on.
Okay.
Hello,
We need the name for, ma'am, your name, please?
Betty R. McGill, Megill.
Betty, I think
Okay,
you're on for
ma'am,
the
I'm
wrong
gonna-
application. Betty,
Okay, yes,
you were
yes,
calling
I want
about,
the,
aren't you calling about the application on Adelphia Road?
yes, I am, I'm sorry.
Okay, you're on the
Yes.
wrong application. That application is next, so you're gonna have to wait until we open the
Oh.
public for that one, okay?
Okay, will do. All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Bye. I have to.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I think at this point in time, you've given the public the benefit of the doubt. But I don't see, you can just ask Eileen one last time if there's anyone else on, but I think it's time to bring the matter to a vote.
There's no one else with their hand raised.
okay. Okay, can I have a motion to
But
So moved.
Yeah.
move? Okay. Okay,
That was by Moretti.
yes, got you, Mr. Moretti. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, second by Mr. Mertens, or Mr. Cantor. Saya,
Answer.
One of those guys.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, okay. Mr. DeCasey,
Yes.
you have a closing statement?
No, I just want to thank everybody for the time on this, especially Eileen. She was very helpful.
Charlie?
Thank you.
I appreciate everybody's work. Charlie was very helpful also.
Charlie?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just two last things, and I just want to note for the record. So they do need a technical relief from the curb and sidewalk along the property frontage. I'll note there is on the north side of the street, but there's no curb and sidewalk on any of the adjacent properties on the south side of the street. So I take no exception to the relief, and I just want to put on the record it predates the most current iteration of the sidewalk trust fund, so they're not required to make contribution for getting relief. So that's good. And then Obviously, they got to get any outside agency, Freehold Soil Conservation District approvals for the site disturbance. So that's all I have.
Okay, Mr. Tropoli,
I have it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
okay, but are we just a simple majority or do we need a majority?
This is not a use variance, so
Okay.
just a simple majority will do in this case.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear. Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application based on all the facts and findings from our engineer. I think the applicant has made an effort to take care of all the issues that we had at our prior hearing, and I think it's a all go as long as everything goes with our engineer's findings.
Motion,
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
second by Mr. Saya. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Cantor,
Yes.
Mr. Mertens,
Yes,
Mr. Moretti,
Yes.
Mr. Saya,
Yes.
and Chairman Nansen.
Yes,
Motion carries, applications approved.
thank you, Mr. DeCasey.
Mr.
Thank you.
DeCasey, you can call me and I'll tell you what happens next tomorrow.
I'll give
All
you a
right,
call.
thank you.
Thank you, Eileen.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Eileen, you're gonna have to read that, please.
Sure, 1 second. Okay, the next application is case number BA 2118 Mohammed Qayyum. It's a bulk variance for a single-family dwelling on an undersized lot. Application of Mohammed Qayyum as applicant and owner seeking bulk variance approval to construct a new 2-story, single-family dwelling with a basement on a property serviced by a septic system, as the existing 2-story dwelling on the property has become fire damaged. The dwelling will be accessed from Adelphia Road by a 36-foot long by 18-foot wide asphalt paved driveway. A concrete walkway is also proposed at the front of the dwelling to provide access from the driveway to the house on premises known as Block 152, Lot 31, 709 Adelphia Farmingdale Road, otherwise known as County Road 524. Expiration date is March 18th, 2022. The attorney for this application is Mr. Sal Alfieri.
Welcome, Mr. Ferry.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Salvatore Alfieri on behalf of the applicant. As Eileen indicated, this is a fire damaged home that we are here to seek variance approval to construct a new home. It is an undersized lot. We did submit buy-sell letters to the adjacent property owners. They have been marked as A10 and A11 into evidence or exhibits already. I have not heard from either of those owners, but they perhaps might be on tonight. We have Matthew Wilder, who is our engineer / planner, and I see him.
I'm on, if you can hear me.
Okay, yes, okay, we see you, Matt. Ron, can we swear Mr. Wilder in, please?
Is he the only witness now?
Yes, the applicant is on, but we don't intend on calling him unless there's a specific question of him.
That's fine then. Mr. Wilder, raise your right hand. You swear the testimony you'll give this evening be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And state your name for the record.
Matthew Wilder, Wilder. I have a business address of 130 Central Avenue, Island Heights, New Jersey. And I'm a licensed planner and engineer in the state of New Jersey. I'm also a
And
certified.
Sal, you,
I
Yes.
apologize.
Mr. Wilder, would you place on the record in a little more detail your professional credentials as both an engineer and planner so we could have the board accept them?
Sure. So both licenses are valid and active. I've testified across probably 40 to 50 boards as an engineer and a planner across the state. We've done a lot of work in Monmouth and Ocean County. I've done everything from small scale residential to redevelopment projects within Fort Monmouth. So I've really sort of run the gambit with my experience as both an engineer and a planner.
What The planner as far as the license here in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, yes. I have a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering. And following my obtaining my engineering license, I also obtained my planner's license as well.
Okay.
Is there a PE or a PI difference? Christine,
Christine,
is there a PI or a PE? That's what Jen mentioned last time she was here.
So he is not a AICP, which is a planning credential. If your, your background is in planning, he is a engineer that sat for his planning test and also took. So he also has his planning license, similar to your board engineer. But this is not a use variance. This is only a bulk type variance application. So typically it is, kind of the standard on this board. If it's a use type variance, an AICP planner needs to provide the planning testimony, but this isn't a use variance case.
okay,
Thank
that's
you.
what I wanted to clarify. Okay,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We request that his credentials be accepted, please.
We accept that.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Mr. Wilder, would you identify for the board the property that's the subject of this application and go into the testimony to describe what is proposed this evening?
Sure. So sort of before putting on my planner's hat, I'll talk a little bit about the history of the property and give sort of an overview of the engineering, including reviewing Mr. Cunliffe's report. So the property is lot 31 within block 152, has an address of 709 Delphia Road. Based upon the tax records, the home was constructed in 1890, so it's quite an old home. And recently the home was fire damaged. And if you've been to the property recently, you can see that time has sort of taken its toll since it was damaged. The existing home was somewhat small, around 1,600 square feet. There was a portion of the home that was on the west that was 2 stories, with the eastern side being only a single story. To the east was a asphalt parking area that served probably about 4 vehicles. The property is surrounded by other residential development, with the exception being the Twin Pond Farm, which is to the east. Oops.
I apologize. I'm just sharing my screen with the plot plan for the board's consideration.
No problem at all.
Thank you, Charlie.
So relative to the construction, there is some newer construction in the area, and I'll use the word newer a little bit loosely, in that there are subdivisions that have homes constructed within the last 15 to 20 years. So the properties within the AR2 zone, which is the Agricultural Rural Estate 2 zone. And the crux of the issue, which has brought us before this board this evening, is that we're an undersized lot. Section 18852 does provide some leniency for lots which were created prior to the township's revised zoning standards, but that still requires 40,000 square feet for lots served by a septic, and the existing property is 14,318.8 square feet, or 64% smaller than what is required. I will review the individual variances shortly. However, like I said, I wanted to sort of run through some of the engineering concepts and also Mr. Cunliffe's August 14th review letter. So starting with Mr. Cunliffe's review, page 1 and page 2 really provide an overview of the project, and then it sort of delves into the variances and waivers. Again, variances I'll address at the end of my testimony. And then as it relates to the waivers, Mr. Cunliffe had outlined the waivers that we are seeking, and we will make one amendment, which is to checklist item number 57, which talks about a freshwater wetlands presence absence determination. We do acknowledge that based on some of the state mapping, there are potentially some wetlands on the periphery of the site. So we will coordinate with the state to confirm if there are any wetlands on site. And certainly if there are, an outside agency approval is needed for buffer averaging or anything of that nature, we agree to comply with that. Regarding the waivers that we are seeking, we believe they're appropriate when you consider that the proposed improvements are largely within the area of the existing improvements. When you consider the scale of the proposed development and its relationship to the area, I believe these waivers are appropriate. As Mr. Cunliffe has shared the plot plan, what you'll sort of notice is the darker colors and the darker black are the proposed improvements, and the lighter half-tone lines are the existing improvements. So as you'll notice that we are, again, largely in the footprint of the existing development. So that's why we believe the waivers that we're seeking are appropriate. Moving forward within the T&M review letter, I will skip the question about the shed, as I will address that with when discussing the variances, as we will be seeking a variance for the height of the proposed shed. The proposed driveway can support 4 vehicles, which complies with the RSIS standards for a 4-bedroom home. And it also provides an extra sort of bonus space to allow vehicles to potentially turn around and perform sort of K-turns to pull out headfirst onto Adelphia Road. A basement is proposed at this time, and any attic space will be used solely for storage, but there's no intent to place a bedroom within the basement. So relative to parking or the need for an increased size of the septic system from a basement bathroom, those are not proposed at this time. As it relates to the proposed driveway, it is an 18-foot wide, 36-foot long driveway, so it's able to fit 4 vehicles, and it will be constructed to the township standards relative to section 118-119A, which talks about the required stone base course and asphalt base and surface course. As it relates to Monmouth County, we will submit an application to them to, in all likelihood, obtain a letter of no interest. I will note that in front of the subject property, there is a narrow right-of-way, as it's only 33 feet wide. That's really a function of the lot across the street, which is lot 22, which has an address of 710 Adelphia Road. So that, based upon tax records, as a home that was constructed in 2009, and the front lot line of that property juts 23.5 feet into Adelphia Road, which causes the narrowness of the right-of-way. I will note that the subject property does share a consistent front lot line with the 3 lots to the west, which are all developed residential, and Twin Pond Farm to the east, again, which is a 12-acre farm. So as I mentioned, we have located the proposed improvements within the same general area as the existing. The topographic conditions of the existing lot are generally north to south, with the road being the high point. And really, we've tried to maintain that with the proposed design. Although we are slightly increasing the impervious surfaces on site, 179 square feet, we attempted to maximize the setback from these impervious surfaces to the surrounding properties. For instance, on the west side of the property, the existing driveway is actually on the property line. We will be removing that and reconstructing the driveway so it has a 7-foot side yard setback. The same is true for the home to the east, where an 11.6-foot setback exists, and we're going to be increasing that to 15.4 feet. So because, although again, we are increasing the impervious surfaces on site, I believe by pulling the improvements more inside, internal to the property, we lessen the impact from that increase. And considering the increase is so small, we are not proposing any measures at this time to control stormwater runoff, such as dry wells or cisterns. We're intending to basically mimic the existing drainage and topographic patterns, and by relocating the impervious areas internally, we believe we've offset that impact. Moving on to comment number 12, which pertains to the proposed septic system. We're not intending to reuse the existing septic system. I don't believe, based upon its age and the state's requirements for sizing, that the existing septic system, even if it's in service acceptable condition, would be able to serve the proposed development. So we will, as a condition of approval, assuming that the variances we're seeking this evening are granted, make an application to the Monmouth County Board of Health for the approval of a new septic system. So whether it be Monmouth County Board of Health, Monmouth County Engineering for a road opening permit, or Freehold Soil Conservation District, we take no exception to providing the applicable outside agency approvals. Relative to tree removal, we don't intend at this time to remove any existing trees. If you've been to the property, the vegetation is really sort of on the outskirts of the property. However, if the design of the septic system requires the removal of a tree or a utility line, we will, comply with the applicable regulations as imposed by the township for the removal of trees. And then lastly, as it relates to section C, plat details within Mr. Cunliffe's letter, we take no exception and will provide the clarifications and corrections as he's requested.
Mr. Wilder, before you move on to planning, early on in Charlie's report, he talks about curbing and sidewalk. And it's on paragraph 3A of his report. I'm not sure if you commented.
Sure. So as Mr. Cunliffe aptly points out, that there is no existing curb and sidewalk to connect into. So we are requesting a waiver from providing that. It would be the quintessential sidewalk to nowhere. So based upon that, we are requesting a waiver from the installation of curb and sidewalk.
Okay, I'm sorry, please continue.
Sure. So the remaining portion of my testimony will be the variance testimony. I know there were certain comments within Mr. Cunliffe's letter I haven't yet addressed, but I believe I will address them as I go through the specific variances.
Mr. Wilder, before you get going
Sure.
onto the planning part, I just want to chime in with the engineering aspect of it. So a couple things. So, obviously you indicated that you're only increasing impervious coverage by 179 square feet, but the applicant still does need a variance. 15% maximum is permitted in the zone, and they're at 17.1%. My recommendation to the board would be that any approval be conditioned on dry wells, just to mitigate any impact to runoff to adjacent properties. And it would just be sized for the water quality storm. As far as septic, obviously you said you indicated that there's no intent to utilize the existing septic because it probably, predates any of the new rules. But have you done any soil test fits? Has the applicant engaged a design professional for the design of the septic system?
Not as of
Mr.
yet.
Wilder?
They have not.
All right. So, I think for the board, my concern would be, and I just want to point out for the board too. So as part of my review process, I did reach out to the engineering department. They are in an area of MAP sanitary sewer service, but the closest actual physical manhole or sanitary sewer line is like 3,200 feet away, I think at the intersection of Strathmere and Adelphia Road. So obviously, to make an applicant for one single family home run a sewer main at 3,200 feet, doesn't really make sense from an engineering perspective and cost perspective for one house. So obviously that's why they're here for getting approval for undersized for septic system. My concern from the board's perspective is, this is the topography of the parcel kind of grades from north to south. And if a septic system is proposed, it's going to be into this southerly portion of the tract. If the water table is not great there, are we then raising a lot, 4 feet, and what impact does that have to neighboring properties? That would be my concern. So what I would say, Mr. Chair, is, if the board is looking favorably on this application, any approvals got to obviously be conditioned on Monmouth County Board of Health. If the design renders any system traditional or, at grade installation, or where it has to end up being mounted, that it return to the board, for the board's consideration on impact to the adjacent properties. Like I said, I think it's not just from north to south here. I think it's also from west to east. So if you're now raising this, 3.5, 4 feet, is that going to cause any issues for the neighboring properties as far as runoff? I think the board needs to, weigh that as part of the application. And let me just see if I had any other quick shorthand notes.
If I may, just to address the septic system. I mean, the intent really would be to try to position the septic system in the front yard if at all possible. It may require, for sizing purposes, the implementation of a dust cap so that it's not a full basement. When you go to a dust cap, you can obviously reduce the setback to 15 feet from the structure rather than 25 feet. So part of the analysis and review of the property is going to be to evaluate the soils on site. to see what makes the most sense as it relates to the proposed septic system. Ideally, again, we would place it in the front yard if we can accommodate it based on the soils which are observed on site, and also, making sure that we have room, obviously, to support a 4-bedroom. But your point is well noted regarding a mounded system in the backyard that could potentially act as a dam for some offsite runoff that's traveling through this property.
Yeah, I mean, it's, yeah, is that Mr. Saya?
What's right to the south of this property? Is that the elementary school?
Let me open Google Earth here.
I'm
So I
trying
think
to,
it's,
Twin Pond Farm sort of wraps around this property.
and there's Crow Creek, I believe, goes through that wooded portion. So it is wooded back there, but you do have, so this is same orientation that's on the plan. You do have 2 residential properties that are along the west side of that. Like I said, the topography, once you get, per the applicant survey, kind of starts, it goes back to this wooded area. Whether the neighboring properties also drain across that, it's hard to tell without actually having, more survey. It's just, even in the front yard area, I would be concerned with the septic system too, because then if that's mounded for any reason, what does that look like visually from the road? It's not a large area, that's being allotted there. And then, just longer term. So obviously we're going to ask for a county letter of no interest for right-of-way takings, but I'd hate to see the applicant put in a septic system and then 15 years from now, the county wants to take right-of-way to do a widening, and then, the applicant's got to move their septic system because it's in the township right-of-way. That would be my concern. So
then Charlie, Crows Creek goes right into what, the Manasquan? Is that what it is?
yeah, I don't know how close we are to the Manasquan at that point. I'm just zooming out. Yeah, so I think ultimately it ends up feeding into the reservoir. It might merge into another couple streams before it actually gets down there.
Yeah.
But at least just to the south, it's definitely wooded. There might be on this property, there might be, they might have their own kind of stormwater. I don't know that it's an actual stormwater management structure, but they might have their own like reservoir pond on their property. So it might all automatic, end up going there. It's just hard to tell without having, more around it. Like I said, I think, Mr. Chair, could we ask them to get a septic design engineer to design something and lay it out for us? Or, can we put it as a condition of approval? They got to get Miami County Board of Health and provide the plans for the board's record. In the event that the septic system, results in a mounted system where the height is being raised from existing grade by more than a foot, then they'd potentially have to come back to the board for the board to reevaluate that. I think that might be a prudent alternative for this one.
I agree, Charlie.
And applicant would agree as well.
Okay. And that's really all I have at the moment. I'll let Mr. Wilder proceed with the planning testimony.
Okay. Any other questions of the board at this point? Seeing none. Okay. Mr.
Go ahead, Matt.
So the variances that we're seeking this evening are minimum lot area where 40,000 square feet is required and 14,318.8 exists. This is an existing condition unaffected by our application. Minimum front yard setback, 50 feet is required and 33.8 feet is proposed. Minimum side yard setback, 30 feet is required and 15.4 feet is proposed. Minimum lot width, 200 feet is required where 74.67 feet exists. Again, this is another one unchanged by our application. Maximum impervious coverage, 15% is permitted where 17.1% is proposed. And the maximum allowable shed height, 6.2 feet is permitted based upon the setback of the shed, and 13.6 feet exists. Although we are requesting 6 variances, which seems like a lot this evening, in almost all the respects where we can improve upon what currently was on the property, we've attempted to do so. As it relates to minimum lot area and lot width, these are existing dimensional variances, which we have no ability to improve upon. And as Mr. Alfieri had indicated, we had sent out by cell letters. The existing home's front setback is 26.4 feet, which we are increasing to 33.8 feet. This is a 28% increase. Within Mr. Cunliffe's letter, there was a question about shifting the home, further back to comply with the required front yard. while this is possible, in my opinion, it would result in a configuration where it was inconsistent with the adjacent properties. 711 and 713 Adelphia, immediately to the west, are generally in line, and we intend to sort of match their front setback. Pushing the home all the way back to 50 feet would create maybe a 15-foot to 18-foot further setback for the proposed dwelling, which is.
Sal, real quick.
Yes, yes.
Are you there?
Yeah.
I want to interrupt just a second here. Todd Cohen wants to carry his application, and let me go
Sure.
ahead and dismiss
Todd,
him.
could you bring
real quick.
Todd into the meeting? Charlie, can you share this for a minute? Thank you.
Sorry about that.
We're going to bring Mr. Cohen in.
There he is.
The Cohen's in.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair.
Sorry for the interruption. If all possible, we'd like to carry the next case since you only have 5 members and we have a use variance this evening that was on request.
Okay.
I believe Eileen said the January 24th meeting was available. And
It
that would be
is.
fine.
Okay. January 24th. Okay, Eileen, you're going to have to read that.
Okay, it's case number BA 2127, David Candell, for use in bulk variance approval. He would like to be carried to January 24th with no further notice, and he's good on time till March 18th, 2021.
Okay, sounds good.
And it'd be carried with no further notice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and sorry again for the interruption.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Sal.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Charlie, would you bring that aerial up again, please? Thank you. So, Mr. Wilder, you were discussing the front yard setback and describing why we're seeking that relief.
Correct. It's just for uniformity with the 2 adjacent dwellings, which again are 711 Adelphia and 713 Adelphia. To provide a 50-foot front setback, while we could, it would sort of create a hodgepodge of setbacks. So although a variance is being sought, we think it's appropriate considering the surrounding uses.
So Sal, if I could just touch on that. So, and this obviously, there's testimony about the existing driveway being able to service 4 cars. Yeah, I think it might be in the applicant's best interest to possibly consider shifting the development back if they're amenable to it. It might not be an issue right now, like I said, if the Monmouth County Board of Health, because this is a C variance, the application doesn't require any, roadway widening or right-of-way dedication. I just don't want, if the applicant, 10 years from now, the county decides they want to widen the road and then, now they got to put in a bigger parking driveway and it creates, to make the driveway bigger at a future point, they're going to have to come back to the board and amend the approval, because they already need a variance for impervious coverage. It might behoove the applicant if they can make it work to shift things back to, I think, what did I have in my letter? 66-foot right of way is what exists there now, or is it what exists there?
So in front of this property is a 33-foot right of way, but it immediately is adjacent to a 56-foot right of way.
Okay. Yeah. So, it just longer term, obviously it's the applicant's case. I'm just thinking out loud here. If the county is going to require at some point in the future, potentially like 10-foot of right-of-way dedication, it's easier for them to move the structure and the grading 10 feet now, and then be protected by any like prior, future right-of-way takings. Because then at that point, the lot's going to become even more undersized, which is going to exacerbate a variance condition. It might be a little bit easier for them to make those changes now.
So Matt, based on that suggestion, how far back would you move that structure. Well, what's the front yard setback as proposed, Matt? Can you, is it?
Sure. So it's 33.8 feet to the covered porch. It's actually 36 feet to the, what I'll call the structure, which is the garage, which sort of extends towards Adelphia Road. So the required setback is 50 feet, if I recall. Let me just confirm.
Yes.
Right, so 50 feet is required. So in order to comply with the covered setback, we would need to shift the structure back, oops, an additional 16.2 feet.
Well, that's to eliminate the variance, but to provide sufficient area to accommodate a taking or roadway, how far back do you think we need to go?
Yeah, so if you look at the tax map that for the surrounding area, this area of town really has a variety of right-of-way width along Adelphia here. To provide a 33-foot half width, I would think we'd want to shift again, because any new again, the septic system likely is going to be in the backyard, but if it were in the front yard, it still has to provide a 10-foot setback to any property line. I would think that maybe a 12-foot to shift the structure back 12 feet would sort of account and accommodate any future taking by the county. We would still require variance relief, but again, it sort of plans for the future, as Mr. Cunliffe has recommended.
Charlie, what would you recommend?
So, Mr. Chair, this is, I have the plan open in Adobe PDF where you can do a measuring tool to scale. So, you know, obviously we don't have the full benefit of the survey for the full width of the road and where the actual right-of-way line. They have some center line roadway grades. If that is the physical center line of the right-of-way, you know, this is 80-foot recommended in the master plan. 40 feet would put it all the way back here. You know, from the front of the property line, that's almost 21 feet plus or minus. So, I mean, you'd have to shift things back, you know, 21 feet to protect themselves from any future right-of-way takings. You know, it would require obviously everything to move back. The driveway would be then longer, you know, increasing the impervious coverage. But like I said, if the county does take any right-of-way dedication, now you have a true 36 feet of parking outside of any potential right-of-way dedication. So, you know, that would be, and then also, like I said, if this shifts back, if there is any intent to put a septic system in the front yard, then you have more room to put the septic system in, and it's not, you know, potentially an issue with the right-of-way takings in the future. It's just, you know, I will say the one caveat to all this is everything's moving back 20 feet. So, you know, it's going to require a little bit more amount of grading because the property does significantly fall off towards the back there.
Okay, now, my next question, the next door house,
Right.
where do they sit?
It's hard to tell because this is just Google Earth aerial imagery and I don't have the benefit of the right-of-way lines. But say the right-of-way line is approximately at the edge of pavement. Hold on, let me get this to the right dimensions. You know, that structure immediately to the west is at 31 feet. You know, the one just to the west of that is 25 feet from the edge of the roadway. So Mr. Wilder, like you heard, he said they're proposing at 33.8 feet. So, I mean, it's in line with what's existing to the neighboring properties. Like I said, you know, I'm just trying to make sure if the applicant, I'd hate to see the applicant have to come back if the county did take right-of-way dedication, you know, in the future, especially because it's an undersized lot and all those kind of things. So, I mean, could they propose what they are and kind of match with what's already existing in the neighborhood? You know, I'll let our board's planner opine on that. I just, like I said, I always try to think out loud to prevent the applicant from having to come back in the future because, you know, no one wants to see them have to spend more time or money or effort, you know, if we can avoid it. So it's just a recommendation. It's something for the board consider, you know, as, you know, as they weigh the application.
I would recommend that they move the structure back you know, based on what Charlie thinks appropriate, to kind of come more into conformance with the requirements of the zone district. You know, the lot is an undersized lot, and they don't meet the frontage requirements. Those are existing nonconformities that, you know, the lot is what it is. They really can't do anything about that. The front and side yard setbacks, since they are building a new structure, they could technically, you know, meet those requirements. The side yard setback, I think, is a little bit harder just because of the width of the lot. But I think if they can meet the front yard setback, they should try to do so, especially, you know, they are requesting a variance for impervious coverage also, which, since that is a percentage, no matter the size of the lot, you should be able to comply with that. But I think, you know, allowing a little bit over on impervious coverage to get the front yard setback to be more in line with what's required in the zone and plan for the future and any road widening, I think that that would be a good trade-off.
Wilder?
It's this is Sal Alfieri speaking.
Yes,
It's
sir.
hard to comment on that without discussing with our client. So I'm hoping that the client can text us and give us his opinion on that. It is a pretty significant change to go back that far. You'll be, but Mr. Wilder, if he can continue his planning testimony while we wait for a response.
Sure.
Can I say something to Charlie?
Yes, you can, Mr. Moretti.
By moving that back 20 feet, now you were talking about the property slopes, was it southward? Now by moving it back 20 feet, now isn't that going to, if you have to put the septic in the back instead of in the front because of the mound, is that going to affect that area back there?
It potentially could, like I said, without having the benefit of any soil test fits, you know, to be able to tell you, you know, I can tell you if water table back there is only 2 foot below grade, you're going to get a mounted septic system of some sort, even if like an alternative design where you can reduce the zone of treatment or zone of separation. You know, it's just hard to tell without having that data. So, and then obviously pushing the house back 20 feet, you are going to get some additional fill because to keep the same foundation, you know, finished grade, and then have that same kind of grading scheme, you know, pushing this back 20 feet, now you're doing, you know, maybe 1.5 to 2 foot of fill to maintain that 96 contour. You know, it can be done. I just, like I said, I'm trying to, you know, protect the applicant in the future, and, you know, like I said, I'd hate to see them have to come back. If they can make a design change now, I think in the long term, that would be, you know, a less costly, you know, thing on their end than having to, you know, move a septic system if it's in the front yard and the county takes right away, or, you know, half their driveways in a right away taking, and now they don't have adequate parking on the site and need to pave, you know, additional areas and come back to the board kind of thing for an impervious coverage. Right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, Charlie. I was just wondering how that would affect that back part. That's all, but I understand exactly what you're saying. And it makes a lot of sense, because if they did put the septic in the front and they takes part of that road, they got to dig up that whole septic system and redo the whole thing in the back anyway. Yeah, but that makes great sense, Charlie.
So then, Charlie,
Yes, Mr. Saya.
where's the existing sanitary system for the building that has been fire damaged? Is it in the back? Is it in the front?
I can't give you any information on that because it's not located on the survey that the applicant provided. I don't know if Mr. Weiler can put testimony to it. I asked if they operate anything from Monmouth County Board of Health on that.
We did not get, yeah, we did not.
The client indicates that the septic's in the rear. We don't have the exact location, but he indicates the septic system's in the rear.
Yeah, so Mr. Say, you know, to kind of answer your question with the septic system, so anything prior to the mid 80s, there wasn't really any, you know, statewide septic regulation. So, you know, people were putting in cesspools and all kinds of stuff, you know, in the water table. when the new rules came into place in the mid 80s, now you have to have in a typical installation, if you're, 4 foot of separation from the seasonal high water table to the bottom, invert of your septic disposal field, and then whatever depth of your disposal field above that. So you can do alternative designs where you do additional pre-treatment and reduce that 4 feet to 2 feet, but without having like a test pit for what the water table is back there. I wouldn't be able to tell you what the septic design is going to look like. I'd ask Mr. Wilder. I know the applicant is proposing a basement. Typically, when you're doing a basement, you do a test pit to maybe figure out where the water table is. Did you do anything for the building?
We have not. My understanding is the applicant, considering he needed a decent amount of variance relief, wanted to get this board's feedback before spending some additional resources, to do a test pit, and then if something were to shift, to then have to do another test pit at a separate location.
Yes. So, Mr. Say and the rest of the board and Mr. Chair, I think we talked about, obviously any approval is going to be conditional on Monmouth County Board of Health. So as part of our approval, they'll have to provide any design plans or approved plans from Monmouth County Board of Health for our record. If the grading of that septic system is more than a foot different from the existing grade that's out there right now, I think we can carve language in a resolution that they'd have to come back to the board. If it's a foot or less, I think they can work with my office as a condition of the approval of its compliance to make sure that the grading doesn't cause any detrimental impact to the neighboring properties, doesn't create any like damming effect on the properties to the west, make sure that the drainage characteristics are maintained. If it's more than a foot, then I think that's something that should come back to the board, and we should see that, just to have eyes on it and make sure that, any neighboring public has appropriate, voice to, I guess means to voice their concerns, should there be any.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
you heard Charlie.
Yes, sir.
How do you want to proceed?
No, we can proceed with the conditions. With the conditions that they can proceed, whatever the sentiments of the board is, but.
I mean, do we not want to know for sure what the water table is back there?
Well, we're going to.
We're going to, and then it's going to be one way or the other after the fact. Or do we find out before and then make the determinations based on the frontage on what we're going to be putting back there?
See what you're saying?
Thank you.
I also have a question. Is the applicant a new owner of this property?
I don't, I'm looking to see if the
Before
date,
the fire.
I'm looking on the tax records. It looks like my client bought the property in 2006, so it has to be before the fire.
And was that before the fire?
I believe so, because I don't think it's been sitting there 14 years.
Okay, would he know where the septic tank is right now?
Yeah.
The septic system?
He said
Because I'm sure he had to have it cleaned out at some point.
He said it's in the rear of the house. The exact location, we can bring him in to testify and answer your questions.
Because if it's right off of that wooden deck, because I'm looking at what you have here is a shaded area. I assume that's the old house right here. Yeah, that's the old house. So the septic could be right parallel with the shed. No, off to the left.
Yes, it could be.
And I myself have been to the property multiple times. I couldn't find any evidence of the septic system. I don't know if there's a cesspool or what the case may be, but if there is an existing septic system in that location, it would not be up to current standards. So it would have to be abandoned or mitigated to allow for the installation of a new septic system.
Just a question.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Seha's trying to say something.
I think we may have lost them.
That's all right.
The chairman lost power, so I don't know what you want him to do.
There was just a strong wind that came through.
Yeah, we're having storms here.
It shook my house a little bit, so I imagine what happened there.
Can we take a couple-minute break so I could call my client also? That would, I might be able.
Eileen, I would recommend that.
Well, if you know that it's mine, I can't bring him in, so if he wants to testify, he has to sign off and sign back in.
Okay, Mr. Alfieri, if you need to bring your client in, we can't bring him in, so he would have to sign off and come back in if he
Well,
needs to talk.
Okay, I'm gonna call him first if we take a break, and then I'll
Okay,
come back, I could respond.
Okay. So why don't we take a break, Eileen, while the chairman tries to get in?
we're gonna give you time to try to get back in. We're gonna take a break, okay? All right, the board will now take a recess for 10 minutes, be back at 8:48.
Mr. Alfier,
Yes, yes.
chairman's without power.
Yeah, we were gonna suggest that we carry the application just so we can work through some of the issues that have been brought up this evening. The only request we were gonna make is that if we could at least open it up to the public to get whatever other input we can get before we do come back.
I agree with that. However, and I think maybe a board member or two may also have a couple of questions before, for the record. And then we'll conclude and you can move on for another day.
Okay.
And Mr. Vice Chairman or Mr. Alfieri, I was just concerned that.
One second, Glenn. Eileen, you gonna bring us back?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The zoning board will now reconvene. We still have a few people that have to sign in, so give them a minute.
Yeah, we got, okay.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, so Mr. Alfieri, based on what we just discussed,
Yeah.
I'd like to ask the board members, if they have any questions. Let's get it on the record and then we'll open up to public.
Mr. Saya, for the record, this property is adjacent to a farm. Are there any buffer requirements?
Mr. Wilder?
Mr. Say, if I could jump in on that. So this is just a C variance application, so it's not the only time that the buffer ordinance comes into place is on, major subdivisions, preliminary and final major site plans, where the lot is greater than 1 acre. So those wouldn't be applicable to this application.
Thank you, Mr. Conlon.
Hello, anybody hear me?
Mr. Moretti, we hear you. You have a question?
Yeah, my screen just went blank and it says Zoom phone is expanding your reach.
Well,
I don't know how to get back to where I was.
Well, we see you.
We see you and we hear you.
You do?
Yeah,
I don't see you guys.
I see you.
Maybe your
Jim.
video, maybe you hit something and knocked your video up.
All right, I did hit something, I know that. All right, how can I get out of this?
All right, well, Mr. Moretti, do you have any questions at the moment?
Nope.
Okay, Mr. Mertens, do you have any questions?
I just want to confirm, Charlie, the septic system that was there is going to be abandoned no matter what. So if the house is moved back 20 feet, they're going to be putting in a new one anyway.
I think that was Mr. Waller's representation that any existing septic is going to be abandoned. And obviously, with the new septic, they'll have to get them County Board of Health. But as a condition of that, they also require certificate of abandonment and all the good stuff for the septic that's there.
Yeah, and that's correct. We agree.
Okay, that's all I need to confirm. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we lost Mr. Moretti.
All right, well, let's see if he can log back in then, because we don't have a quorum now.
Jeez.
Sorry, Eileen, Wendell can't log in with his cell phone. Call in if we needed him.
I guess not.
Okay.
Looks like we're having problems with already.
Having problems with Moretti as well.
All right, well, he's an attendee right at the moment, so he's got to promote.
Yeah, no, we're getting a failed,
I'll ask Wendell if he can get in on his phone.
Mr. Moretti's in as an attendee, Eileen.
Yeah, but we're having trouble bringing him in. We're getting error messages.
Okay.
Mr. Moretti, if you hear us, log off and log back in again.
That's down to me and Glenn.
I only see half of you. There you
Oh,
go.
are you still there?
Oh, I am.
Yeah, okay. You had me scared.
Well, you know, we're at the mercy of the cable company. So if they're getting knocked around,
Then we're not in good shape then.
All right, I'm just gonna step up for a second.
Seems to be a front coming through.
Yeah, during the break, I had to secure a grill outside and it's coming in pretty fast.
Wow. Yes, Paul.
It's gonna drop 15 degrees from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m.
Yep.
So there's a cold front pushing a warm front right now. That's what's causing all of this.
Ready to turn the sign back in, but I'm still getting error codes.
Mr. Moretti is still trying to log in, but we're still getting error code. Well, wait, maybe we got him now.
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, it looks like we got him.
But you're mute. Okay, Jim, you're muted.
Yep, I'm back.
Thank you.
Wait,
Go.
Woo, boy, I tell you, I went through about 4 different things.
okay.
Sight for sore eyes.
All right, so we got, Mr. Alfieri, we got 4 of us right now. You know, we believe we've answered, you know, asked all our questions. One more time, Mr. Mertens, any questions?
I'm good.
Mr. Cantor, any more?
No more questions.
Mr. Moretti?
I'm good.
All right, can I get a motion to open to public, please?
I make a motion, we open to the public.
Mr. Moretti?
Second.
Second, Mertens. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Eileen, can we open up?
Yes, at this time, the chairman has opened the hearing up for members of the public. If anyone has any questions or comments on the application for Mohammed Qayyum, please raise your hand and we'll bring you into the meeting one at a time. If you're calling in, use *9 to raise or lower your hand, *6 to mute or unmute yourself. And we're bringing in someone on the phone.
And they need to *6 to unmute.
Yes.
Okay, may we have your name, please?
Yes, Betty R. McGill, Megill.
Okay, ma'am, I'm going to swear you in and afterward I'll ask for your address. You swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give tonight will be the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
And your address, please.
175 Havens Bridge Road,
Okay, and ma'am, I just
block
want to,
150, block
ahead.
152, lot 26.
152, lot 26. I don't know how much
Right.
you heard, but the application will not be finished tonight. As a courtesy to Mr. Alfieri, we've opened it up to the public so we can take the public's questions and concerns, which may assist Mr. Alfieri in the future. So please go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted it to go on record as being opposed to what they are proposing for the septic system especially. That's my concern, right? On a lot that's less than 1/2 acre. So far, they have no plans submitted, but what I heard tonight, they don't even have it drawn up. Okay, so anyway, we'll skip that. Wherever the septic is proposed, as long as it's in the rear of the house, it will inevitably have to leach into existing wetlands, swamp water, which feeds them through the rear of their property, lot 31, as well as my rear portion of my lot 26. This water is draining all year now. It feeds through my property about 100 feet or so, just, but anyway, and runs into a tributary of Crow's Creek, which then flows down to 2 irrigation ponds on farm located on adjoining property. Those ponds are less than 500 feet from my property line, directly into the Manasquan River, controlled irrigation ponds. I have tried to describe the situation as well as I could, that I know of it. I hope that the real engineers take a closer look at the situation. I am very concerned. And I have lived right here in lot 26 for 64 years. And I know that the water down there is worse than it used to be, a lot worse. And that's wetlands. I don't see how they can stay far enough away from wetlands, putting a new septic system in, because their property does drop right down to the wetlands. Anyway, I just wanted to go on record as being opposed for that reason and to ask for a closer look at this situation. Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. McGill, thank you.
Yes.
If you have
Thank you.
You're welcome. If you have no further questions for anyone.
No, not right now.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay, is there anybody else?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Eileen, there's another phone call in listener. Maybe is that Wendell?
Two people. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I'll just listen.
Got it, Wendell. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Alfieri?
Yes,
We've heard, we have it open to public. We don't see any more hands raised. Eileen, can we close
No.
it, public?
Yeah, there's no other hands raised.
Need a motion to close.
I'll make a motion to close.
Mertens,
Second it.
second, Moretti. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait.
All right, we have closed to public. we've heard the, on the record, the testimony of Ms. McGill. Mr. Alfieri, Mr. Tropoli, how should we proceed?
Well, Mr. Vice Chair, I understand the applicant and the applicant's attorney have already expressed a willingness to carry the matter, to take into account the concerns put on the record by Charlie with respect to the positioning of the potential septic system. And of course, now we have the comments from a resident who's lived there for 64 years, who evidently is quite familiar. So it's my understanding that Mr. Alfieri is again going to request that the matter be carried for further review. I note that there's an expiration date of March 18, 2022. So Sal, I would imagine you'd be looking for a date early in the new year.
Yes, yeah, we'll need a couple weeks to sort through these issues anyway, so yes, I don't know, is that same night that Todd was put on, is that still available, Eileen?
January 24th is.
Okay, that's the 20th or 24th, I'm sorry.
24th,
Okay,
Monday, the 24th.
okay. So yeah, Ron, it would be requested that you announce that this be carried to that night if acceptable to the board without further notice.
Sure. Eileen, would you care to make that announcement for us? There'll be no further notice with that being carried to the 24th.
Sure. The application of case number BA 2118 Mohammed Qayyum has been carried to the board's January 24th, 2022 hearing with no further notice. So if you received a notice for this hearing, you will not receive another notice for that hearing, and it will still be on Zoom.
Thank you, Eileen. Thank you, everyone. Have a great holiday.
Yes,
Thank you, you
You
too.
also,
Right.
take care.
Okay.
Okay. We have no further applications on the agenda tonight. Is that correct?
No, and sorry for all the confusion this evening.
It worked out.
It did. And next Monday is our last meeting of the year. I'll be sending the links out for the agenda tomorrow.
Okay,
Very good.
that's good.
Oh, we don't have one on the 27th?
No, we
No.
never have the week between the holidays.
Okay, for some reason
It's-
I put that down on my calendar.
No,
I
it's-
don't know
Well, you'll
why.
be the only one there, Jim.
All
it's
right,
next-
good. I'm no, Rich, you can join me, can't you?
Jim, it's next
Uh,
Monday.
Right, the 13th.
Yes.
Yeah, I
All right.
got that one
Well,
down.
All right, everyone,
We're-
let's give the chairman a chance to speak. He's on the phone. Go ahead, Wendell.
Well, no, I'll see everybody next week. Hopefully we won't have no missteps.
Forms.
Next. Okay, I'm sitting out here in the dark.
Wow.
It's dark here.
And it's
You
going to
know,
get cold,
we're out
Wendell.
in the country here, huh?
It's going to get cold. The temperature's going to drop overnight, 15 degrees at least.
So don't remind me. We're without power right now, so
Crank
hopefully
up
they'll
that
get it back.
generator.
I don't want to if I don't have to. But if I have to, I have to.
All right. So everyone, next Monday will be our last
Yes.
meeting.
Yeah,
Eileen, if there's no more,
Eileen, can you send out an email to everybody, please?
Sure. About what, next week?
Yeah, about next week.
Sure.
That way we can get everybody here,
Okay.
maybe. Okay.
Are we meeting somewhere, Eileen, for the cake?
No, there's no cake this year.
Oh, God. I was looking so forward to that.
it's
Sorry.
okay, Jim. Sorry about that.
I need to put a
Well,
couple of pounds on. I'm getting skinny.
Yeah. Well, Eileen, you could probably make each individual a cake there.
Oh, yeah, in my spare time.
No, I'm teasing you. Okay.
Can you email those cakes to us?
Sure.
There you go. There you go. That'll
Yeah,
work.
Jim and I will
Amazon,
do it on the-
Amazon them to us.
Yeah, Jim, we'll have it on the
Okay.
27th.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, there you
I'll
go.
meet you on the 27th.
Okay, guys. I
All
will
right.
talk at you later.
All right, everybody, have
All
a good
right,
evening.
have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
All right, motion
Motion
to
to
adjourn.
adjourn.
Second that.
We're ready.
Okay,
All
Okay,
right.
All
bye.
in favor? Aye.
Bye.
All opposed? No. Good night.
Good
All right,
night.
everyone.
Thank
Have a
you.
good week. All right,
I can't see anybody.
Good night, everyone. See everyone next Monday.
Night.
you got it.